The rugby league rivalry between Australia and New Zealand is long and fierce. At times, the Kiwis will dominate, but mostly it's been the green and gold of the Kangaroos. For example, in 1971, the Kiwis beat the Aussies, and that was it for the rest of that decade. Then in the early 80s, a new generation of players emerged that began to turn things around, and they set the path for players to follow. Our next guest on Pacific Brothers was a pivotal part of that and an absolute great, Lemalu Fred Ah Kuoi. And thanks to COVID restrictions, we had to interview him in a field, but it was one of my favourite chats we've had on the show so far. With your story, I want to start at the beginning, because you were born in Samoa in 1956 when it was still Western Samoa. Yep. And New Zealand was still in charge. Yeah. And you came to New Zealand as a 6-year-old in 1962, our first year of independence. That's what right. Are your memories from that time? My mum was a school teacher there, and so she taught us a lot of, a little bit of everything, really. And but my dad, he was a mechanic, and they also had a Burns Phelps store out there in Lefanga, and so those are the things that I remember a lot of. What was New Zealand like? And so you arrived and landed in Grey Lynn. It was kind of like predominantly white. Irish, working class? Yeah, pretty much, and that. But then we started seeing a few more islanders, and across the road from us was the Vaimus, and then next couple of streets along were the Solomonas, and and then on the other side of the park was Sif Weavers. And I love how we remember all the family names, because there weren't that many. That was the Grey Lynn bunch. Then you had on the other side of Richmond Road, you had Ponsonby. So you had the Tingers, you had the Williams, you had the Lawrensons, you had all those guys over there. You had the Ponsonby Massive and the Grey Lynn Massive. And never the twain shall meet, right? But we all met at Mount Albert Grammar. Yeah. And that's when we did it. We got together a lot, and we did some stuff. The Ah Kuoi name in Central Auckland is famous, not just you, but all your brothers that played as well. But how come you went to league and not played rugby for the Ponsonby Ponies? I was at Pasifika Intermediate, and we played rugby, like our school played rugby during the week, and then so we played rugby there, and then in the team that I was playing, and one of the guys, and I still remember his name, Alan Sullivan, and he lived in Toll Street in Ponsonby there. And he says, hey, why don't you come and play for us at Ponsonby? We play on Saturdays. I said, oh, do you guys play Saturdays? Oh, okay, I'll ask my mum. Anyway, we were living in Elgin Street then, and that's at the top of Grey Lynn Park. And I said to Mum, hey, Alan asked me if I can go and play for their team in Ponsonby. He says, well, where's Ponsonby train at and where they play? He said, Clarence Street. Yeah. And says, where's that? And he says, oh, you go down here, go through the park, and then it's on the other side of Richmond Road down that way. And she says, does Clarence Street have goalposts like those ones down there in Grey Lynn Park? And I says, yeah. And says, well, you go down there and play for that club there, because it's closer and I can see you. And that was the Richmond... That was a reason why she made me go down there. So you were born in Samoa. As far as I know, you don't have any particular iwi affiliation. How did you end up making your first New Zealand representative debut for the New Zealand Maori Rugby League team in 1975? Coach then was Tommy Newton. And Lummy Newton, he saw us come through the grades in schoolboys, juniors and so on. And so he knew that we were really good players. It was myself, and then we had the two Sorensen boys, Kurt and Dane, and John Smith. He was Fijian. And so the two... You all played for the New Zealand Maori? We all played for the New Zealand Maoris, man. Dennis Williams. The great Dennis Williams. Great Dennis Williams, man. We all played for the New Zealand Maori team. Because he's Samoan. Yeah, being Samoan. Pesasua. Pesasua was another one, you know, and so we all played for the New Zealand Maori team because... What did the actual Maori members of the team, how did they react to you? Oh, they just taught us the haka, man. Honestly, we just felt like, you know, Tommy looked at it in the way that you guys are brown. Brown, and you guys speak a different language, and we kind of like have the same kind of measure with how we go about doing things, and that you guys will include you as the extended whānau. Oh, wow. I want to talk about that legendary Auckland team of 1977. Auckland beat Australia at Carlaw Park. A week later, Great Britain, and a week later, France.
So the majority of the Kiwi team was actually in the Auckland side. It was almost like it was harder to get into the Auckland side than it was in the Kiwi side. And so we had a great team, and all of us were just kind of like, we were a band of brothers together.
Young Mark Graham was in that team?
Yep, Mark was in that. There was
young Olsen Filipina?
Young Ollie was there, Shane Varley. But it's kind of like, it's legendary stuff. And I mean, like the next test that we actually played the Aussies, where we beat them, was in '83.
So you were part of the first Kiwi team to beat the Aussies, and we hadn't beaten them since '71.
Since '71, yeah.
That felt like a turning point, eh? Because these were the days when we didn't have many players in the NRL. In fact, none.
No.
All our national team players were picked from our clubs, and then they played for the Kiwis, and then they went back to their clubs.
Yep.
No wonder Carlo Park was always packed.
It was always packed purely because of the fact that back in those days, the sad thing was that there were a lot of good players here, but we couldn't get out of here because most of us had to be transferred out or paid a transfer fee to the New Zealand Rugby League.
Right.
It was 60 grand to get out of here.
What?
Back
in
then,
the 80s?
60.
That's like $6 million now.
Mate, tell me about it. And that's why a lot of guys couldn't get away, because a lot of the clubs over there wouldn't pay that.
How could the New Zealand Rugby League have that view?
Only because of the fact that we didn't know any better as players, that we should have had enough to challenge it, but we didn't have, you know, that kind of legal mind.
Our players were good enough, but they weren't able to get there.
They weren't able to leave, purely because of the transfer fee. I think it was challenged that it was a restraint of trade, and it was still kind of like amateur here, and you can't really stop anybody from working or doing what they need to do to make a living.
When did that rule change?
Oh, well, that pretty well changed around about 80s.
Now, I read something. In 1979, you became the youngest ever captain of the Kiwis at 22. I read in Pacific magazine that you were the first Pasifika person to captain any New Zealand national representative team.
Yeah, there's a lot of firsts in my life. First in that, first head boy in Mags, Pacific Island head boy.
Wow.
First in that, you know, I'm the only unbeaten test captain for...
That's right, the Kiwis have never lost while you were the captain.
No.
I mean, I know, you know, my family all, you know, we loved the Pasifika people that pulled on the black of New Zealand, because it was like us in there, you know, it was like us on the field.
Yeah.
And it made us feel more a part of this place.
Oh, mate, you know, like, it's always that thing, what your parents teach you. Son, be the best in there. Be the best out there. Because you know why? Because your family name means a lot. You know, our community was buzzing, you know, with everything that was going on around our footy club down there in Richmond, because we were making ways into areas that the area has never been to before. And that was kind of like through the likes of us playing footy and just doing our best out there.
In 1981, you were signed to the North Sydney Bears.
Yep.
The red and black.
Well, in 1980, I was on the tour of England and France. I was ranked #1 and 5'8" in the world.
Hey.
And that's
#1 standoff in the world in 1980.
That's all it was.
Of course, they're going to pay 60 grand to get your services.
Yeah. Well, also Mark Graham had gone there. See, here was the thing.
Ah, Mark Graham.
We were touring. Me and him were captain and vice captain in '80 in the tour of England and France. This is when everything started to happen. Yeah. And we had a successful tour. You know, we broke even on the test matches in England and France. But from there, Hull FC were chasing me. Manly were chasing Mark. And anyway, Mark got a contract from them, and then, hey, Freddie, you go to law school, didn't you? I said, no, I didn't. I got into law school, but I didn't go to law school. I only got into it. So Mark says, here, well, anyway, have a look at this contract from Manly, see what you think. I says, and then he says, you got another contract from Norse. And I looked at it and I says, dude, you want to go to Norse, bro?
That's how he ended up at North.
That's how he went. Well, because
he's a North Sydney legend.
Yeah, he went to North Sydney. Yeah, he went to North Sydney and that. And I says, bro, if I were you, I'd go to North. You know, like I'm looking at these zeros here, mate. You're going to be okay. And anyway, so he went 81, beginning of 81, and I was working at the Justice Department company's office, and I get this phone call. And it was from Mark. I said, hey, how you doing, man? He says, hey, there's a football manager here, Ken McCaffrey, for Norths, and that he wants to talk to you. And he goes, hey, Freddie, how you doing? I said, yeah, I'm good, thanks. Thanks for asking. Ken, how you doing, man? He says, yeah, listen, mate, how would you like to come over here and play with us here at Norths? I said, sure, what are we looking at? He goes, same as Mark, that'll be good. I said, yeah, I'll be right there. I'll be right there. He says, but there's a 60 grand on my head at the moment. And he goes, no worries, we'll take care of that. Oh, whoa.
So you're at North Sydney, 1981 to 1983. And then, you know, you were one of the first Kiwis also to... You went to Hull FC after that to join your old mates in the Kiwis, Dane O'Hara, Gary Kimball, James, the finisher, Leolo. I mean, how good a player do you have to be if your nickname is the finisher?
Well, mate, I'll tell you what, and he does. So we used to have a really neat partnership. And all it was is, Jamo, you hit the gap and I'll get the ball to you.
Is that how you scored that try? He scored that try in the 1985...
yeah, 85 final in Wembley. Yeah, just ran across.
He just
bang. Yeah, I said, you just hit the hole, man, I'll give you the ball. You look at a lot of his tries, just timing, just knowing exactly where to pick it and bang, you're there.
Because your big thing was your passing game, eh? You were a very intelligent player.
That's what I love about league, is that there's a lot of opportunities to create stuff. And so, like, it was more creating opportunities so that now we've got places to go. I watch the game now and I'm sitting there going, you got to be kidding me doing this stuff. It's just power stuff now. It's just barge, and then kind of like do a few things. And I sort of like, what happened to hiding the ball? What happened to all the fake play? You know, like the simple things of just, now you see the ball, now you don't. And everybody's going running all over the place. Then next thing you know, the guy's under the post. You go.
With all your life experience and incredible knowledge,
well,
what's one piece of advice you can offer?
But one of the things that you always tell kids now is that, listen, you can be the best at it, but you've got to also understand the risks that come with it. You've got to understand that there's a lot of trials and a lot of tribulations that will happen along the pathway. And sort of like you go into it, eyes wide open, knowing full well that there are things that you need to address. And it's not trying to be negative, it's pointing it out so that you can be aware that when it does arise, you're prepared for it. Yeah, you're prepared for it.
So your advice is to be prepared and have more knowledge beyond just what you need to do to make the team.
Exactly. Exactly, and so therefore you're not only skilled, but you're smart, you're wise.
Lemalu Fred Ah Kuoi, it's been an absolute honour to speak with you and have these conversations. Crazy to try and fit decades into a talk, but I feel like you're a bridge from those days in the 70s to how things changed in the 80s and the pathway that you said. It's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you for your time, sir.
You know, thank you, Oscar, and I mean, you're a trailblazer in your field, you know, and I mean, we're all doing our bit. We're all doing our bit.
We all do our bit.
And I think if we just look at it, that sort of like simple thing that the old man said, man, be the best at whatever you do, man.
Fred, thank you so much, sir. You're the man.
It's been great, man. It's been great, Oscar. Thank you.